Hello, footies. Welcome back to your latest dose of Football Ultimate Team podcasting goodness. We are Foot in Review, powered by footcoaching.com. We are recording this on Tuesday, the 17th of December, 2024. Welcome along to our final Tuesday club as you know it. And, you know, it's our farewell because my job is changing a little bit. So don't worry, I'm still going to be around Foot in Review. But the way we do things on Tuesday and the schedule might be tweaked a little bit. Details to come after Christmas on that one once we actually, figure it out. So my journey with Shaq and Nathan on regular Tuesdays is over. And Shaq is so upset, Nathan, that he's not even turned up to the final show.
Yeah, I mean it's an emotional day for all of us involved here, Dan. Massive kudos on the secondment promotion. It's fantastic for you, but I have to say it's very inconsiderate of you furthering yourself to the detriment of this Tuesday club. But it's a shame that Shaq's not here. He's had a lovely addition to his family with a wee pup, and I think puppy daddy duty seems to be calling. And he's obviously a bit too sad to actually put it into words for us today.
Exactly. Best of luck because that is no easy feat. I mean, look, I've not had a new puppy in the house since I was about 13. So I can only imagine the pain. I have had two children to raise though, so that'll explain that one. Right. Loads to get to on this final Tuesday club. We're just going to, again, as we do, if you are, just joining us for the first time on a Tuesday club, it's a bit more of a relaxed feel. We don't really go over too much content and things like that. But I mean, Nath would be amiss to this weekend, because of, the action with the short show and things like that. We do have a little bit to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we can say is EA are starting to pump out some of the content. Maybe not the SBCs in terms of player SBCs, they've been a bit lacking, but there's been lots of Evos, there's been lots of objectives. I know the guys touched on the new team, which actually surprised me. I know they've gone over it, but I actually quite like this. Is it Globetrotters team? I think there's some handy players in there. I'd started my team of the year save, and I've already ditched that to try and get some of these players, which, surprise, surprise, I've not got anything more than discard. But we've got to say, hats off. There is plenty to be doing just now.
Yeah, there's loads to be getting on with. I liked the fact they released a kind of a not quite a League SBC. It's not even really a League SBC. The Globetrotters challenge that they released yesterday, is it, Nate? Because yeah, they've all got names and saying La Liga or whatever, but it's basically just one player from those leagues, and there's no chemistry requirements either. So actually, effectively, it's just a really long guaranteed Globetrotters SBC, just with squads rating from 82 to 77. I think the lowest one is.
Yeah, I think it was coming in about sort of 27k if you did them all in the sort of the cheapest way. So I think the cheapest Globetrotter is about 20k anyway. So you're effectively paying 7k for a guaranteed pack. And when you see some of the players in these packs, it's not a bad gamble. We've said it with some of the hero picks and stuff over the last few days that you've got to be in it to win it. So it's worth it in my opinion. If you're a League SBC grinder like yourself, Dan, obviously you can just throw in your off league cards, or the majority of them off league. You might have to put a few sort of important or major leagues in just to add up the rating. But I quite like that sort of thing. I think it's nice. I'd prefer to do that than to have an 86. I think in the last few years it's been like an 85 or 86 team with X amount of team of the weeks to get these guaranteed packs. So I think it's quite a pleasant way to do it, and you get some okay packs back, which helps sort of restock the club that you've been using.
Yeah, I think I just counted. I think there are 14 Globetrotters which are 15k or less. So look, let's be honest, the chance of you getting anybody really good are slim, but as Nath just said, got to buy a ticket to win the raffle. I did it. I think I lost out over. I didn't get anything in the tradable packs, but I'm at that kind of stage now, Nath, where I've got a good settled team. I've got a decent amount of coins in my account. So I'm quite happy to have a go at some of these things, even if I don't think that's brilliant value for money. As long as it's not a case of sinking, hundreds of thousands of coins into something that's not good value, I don't mind having that little go.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many times over the last few years have we said, yeah, you're being repetitive, it's the same thing, recycle. So I'm not against them changing it up like this at all. I mean, I got Nagasato, I think, from the MLS. She's 14k, but 88 rated, 4-star, 5-star, in some sort of objective, I'd imagine she'd actually come in fairly handy. She doesn't look
Yeah.
the worst player in the world. So things like that, I would never go out and buy her, but I'm fairly happy to have her and just hide her away in the club for future needs. So there are some good players, and there's some random players that you might get that that could come and help and use sort of down the line. So I like it. I think it's a nice wee change. It keeps things fresh, and I think they could have done that in a lot worse way. They could have made the requirements stupid or the financial kind of side of things really daft. But I think it's quite adequate for what we do. And again, it's not like you have to do it. It's just that it's a nice way to do it.
I can't remember which streamer it was I was watching. I can't remember if it was Nick or Nepenthes, the two ones I watched kind of the most. One of them was saying that it almost feels like FC has now become the promos between the big promos are just there as just filler. And EA are quite happy for that to be the case. We've always talked about on this show the whole feast and famine cycle, but it now just becomes, to me, it just becomes very much more apparent that EA are waiting to psych you up for the bigger promo. So we had Thunderstruck and Black Friday, 2 weeks ago now. And now we're getting set for Winter Wildcards that's coming this week as well. And so kind of EA are quite happy to let people, I don't know if they're happy to let people be frustrated, but they're not just going to be throwing content after content after content, because presumably they just don't want people burnt out.
Yeah, and it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, because when we log on especially on the app or whatever, if you log on at 6 o'clock and go, there's very little here, you log off and people are frustrated. But then, sometimes if it's SBC, we go, calm down, there's all these cool things to do. We've not got the fodder. Oh, EA are doing this just to drive us to the store. So, I think over the past weeks and months, we have been really critical. And I think it's important that we take that balanced approach and go, actually, some of the players in packs are very good. Yes, the pack weight seems to have gone downhill yet again, as we predicted. But actually, nice players in. They're giving us new things. They're also giving you a bit of a breather because, even the objectives they bring out, they're not overly onerous. So it's not like you're having to play 50 matches and get X, Y, and Z. So I'm okay with it. You can log on, you can have a couple of hours, you can do what you need to do, and you can chill a little bit because, Winter Wildcards usually, well, if we go by last year, there was daily SBCs, daily player SBCs. Some of them were very, very good. We had icons, we had decent, just standard players. And then it'll probably be the lull before the storm of Team of the Year, which we know is just carnage as well. So again, pack weight and that will be minimal, but there's always lots to do at Team of the Year time. So I'm okay with this. I think it's quite refreshing, to be honest. I don't know what your take on it, Dan, but I don't think it's a bad sort of time to be around the game.
No, look, I think there's enough to be getting yourself, keep yourself occupied with. It was quite funny going back to Nepenthes. He released a video the other day talking about the League SBC grind, and he starts the video by saying, "League SBC grind is just not worth it," And then by the end of the video, it's actually like, I think this might actually be worth it after all. Which is just the thing, and I think one of the problems with us as a community, look, I would say possibly especially not so much Nath, because Nath does bring a lot of positivity, but myself and Shaq, I'm sure I'm speaking for Shaq on this. Sometimes we focus a little bit too much on kind of the negatives and the things that are annoying us when, because we've got the blinkers on and we're focused on getting to the best possible team, being as efficient as possible, making, the coins last and go as far as possible. And actually we lose sight of the fun things. So yeah, look, an 86 base hero player pick. Yeah, you can focus on the fact that there are lots of Duff heroes in there. And I got 3 Duff heroes. I think you got a load of Duff heroes to pick from. But actually, it costs 100k. And if you do win the lottery and get a Yapstam or a Company or Ginola, that's great. Players they've released over the weekend, Riyad Mahrez and Dabinia. Both of them, Nath, are absolutely usable. And both of them are cheap. Someone's saying, okay, Dabinia, 180k, that's too much. But is it? Because 180k's worth of fodder isn't that hard to come by anymore.
No, it's not. And, 5-star Brazilian lengths. Dabinia's one of these players as well. I don't know if you've used her at all, Dan, but
last game I did.
She's really quite silky on the ball. Like she's one of these that always seems to play a little bit above her stats. So I'm okay with that. Riyad Mahrez, although he's a former City player, I used to love watching him play. Remind me a lot of Iron Robin, the way that he kind of cuts inside on that left foot and you can fire it into the bottom corners. I think that's quite nice. 100k You've seen special Ronaldo in that league. Lots of decent cards in there, especially with the Evos out now. So I think that's fine. I think they look really nice, usable cards. They don't look top tier, but they don't look, unusable and rubbish and, absolutely avoid at all costs. So, like you say, fodder's not dreadful. A lot of the rewards we're getting are fairly high rated packs from objectives. Not saying, I've done the ones today and they were pretty much all minimum ratings, but the opportunities are there to get these cards. And fodder's not overly high right now either. So if you've got a few coins lying around, then it's not impossible to do these.
Absolutely not. And again, you're in a bit of a down if you do, down if you don't situation because, they'll release lots of the same kind of players. And people say, "Oh, we don't get anything new." And then they release something a bit different, and people are like, "Oh, well, these players aren't meta." They'll release a load of high priced. They'll release nothing but low priced SBCs, and people say, I want a big grind to work towards." And then, they release a load of big ones, and it's like, "Oh, I need something a bit cheaper to work on." So, I think we're all kind of. Again, I'm not going to label everybody with it, but there is that temptation to focus on the negatives of it, whereas as you said, Nate, there's lots of things to have fun with. I loved playing that Evo's Elite Friendly. It reminded me of back in the day playing the Silver. Do you remember when they used to have tokens locked behind the Silver Lounge? And you got to feel quite smug because as a Silver Lounge, like regular, you had a great Silver team. I felt like that this week with the Evo Elites because I've got all of my Reading Evo players. So I was able to go into it and I think I won. What is it? You need 12 wins. I think I got like that in 15 games. I just blitzed through it. Selfishly, I was like, it was nice to be rewarded for having this weird random Reading team with a couple of other Evo ringers like Chloe Kelly in there. So I liked that. It was something a bit different. And the packs, Nate, as you said, there were some good packs in there for not a lot of effort for a mode where most people are playing Golden Goal.
Yeah, absolutely. It was grand. I mean, I went into some and you could see by some people's teams they'd literally just thrown like the first Evo on folk just to get enough players to do it. So, like yourself, I just had the 7 though. I didn't have a full United team or anything, but so I did quite a lot of the meta Evos, so I was fairly comfortable as well. So, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to feel like you can. We've always asked for this more relaxing game mode, and I think friendlies on the whole have been fairly chill, to be honest. I mentioned it last week. Adam put out a 4-2-1-3 formation, which is absolutely cooking in friendlies. It's not so great in rivals because it's so intense, but in friendlies it's great. So it's nice to be able to experiment a little bit. You can use some of these players. I mean, I had Kobe Mainu from the first couple of weeks, and now he's about 84 rated, but he was still fine. It's just nice to use a different squad, and if you go one down, I quit out. Golden goal, well played, guys, easy because people are going to do it again. So yeah, it's nice just to be able to be in a more positive place of the game, and I'm not trying to force myself to be the positive one with you and chat because I think we're all kind of feeling like it's a little bit more of an all right place to be again.
Yeah, and look, I had a mixed week on this game. I've again moving to a slightly different role for a little while, so I've had a bit more on my plate. So I haven't had as much game time to play as I would like. I did go through weekend league. I went 8-7 a week after getting what was it 10 wins last week or something like that, or 9 wins. I can't even remember anymore. But I started this week. So I started last week 9-3. Then I started this week 4-7. And what I do, and look, we have had a couple of patches as well. It is worth putting that out there. And I'll get nice kind of feelings on those patches and tweaks because it relates to a question we've got in the mailbag. But I still can't figure out this game, Nate, in terms of am I good? Am I not good? Is it all just a bit of a lottery? And I rallied and finished 8-7. So again, every week this year, I've ended somewhere between 7 and 10 wins. So I guess that is just kind of my level. But yeah, it's always quite frustrating in those moments where you do lose 2 or 3. And I know you go through the same in rivals where you'll go through that little mini run where you can't seem to buy a win, and then just things just click again out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the important things is to listen to your advice that you give me is don't change things too often because I've constantly changed formations and teams, and then you guys tell me off, and then I tell myself off because it backfires on me. So I mean, getting 7 wins regularly, getting anything above that, I think it clearly shows you're a good player, and you're Div 2 rivals, and I think that's no mean feat to get there as well. So I think it's probably a good time to talk about this patch. To be fair, because since this patch has been out, like this is the first patch we've had where I feel like the game's different. Like, and it's hard to put your finger on what exactly it is, but can't score corners at all. And again, it relates to another question, but I concede so many counterattacks on corners now. I'm going to have to find a new way to do it because unless I'm scoring directly with Ferrell and Mendy, then I can't actually seem to score them and stop the counter. The passing seems nicer, but the game feels a little bit slower as well. It's weird. There's something there that seems very different, and I'm not saying I dislike it at all because I think it does feel a little bit more like realistic. I don't think it's quite as arcadey as it has been, so I do quite like it. But it definitely means you have to kind of adapt the way that you play and adapt you approach the game.
Yeah, well, let's read out those questions from the mailbag. Again, to get those questions into us, join the Discord. It's absolutely free. The link is posted on every set of show notes. You can experience, it's a great community that has these kind of conversations that we have on the Tuesday Club just on a daily basis. There's lots of different... If you've never used Discord, by the way, before, and I know there are lots of people out there who... And I hadn't used Discord before I started this show. It's basically like an old school chat room. If you ever used chat rooms back in the day, or if you're younger and you don't even know what a chat room is, it's just a constant flow of conversation. And we have different rooms for different topics and things like that. It's absolutely free. Most of the posts that you will hear, in fact, all of the hosts you hear on this show appear in there at different times. So get on over there, absolutely free. So the question submitted, one from the King of the North, Ingby. Do you guys think the meta has changed much after the latest patch? Saw on the pro event yesterday that not many tried to score corner goals. Saw some surprising results there and saw pros make many more mistakes than usual. Was there too much pressure? And Nero also sends his question in. Any good tips for corners? Think I'm more likely to concede on a counter now than to score a corner. And just as I answer those questions, because it's the final Tuesday Club of the year, so of course Nathan Downs disappears on me. So I'm flying solo for a little bit while Nathan sorts out his technical difficulties. So I'll do my best to answer my own question that I've just set to him. In terms of corners, Nero, I think what I've now started doing is going back to going short, calling that man short or woman short. And then I'll either try and do that whipped in cross, or I will then try and get to the corner of the area. I'm still finding a lot of success with the corner tactic that kind of got a little bit OP last year. It wasn't widely used, but I know me and Nath were certainly, I won't say abusers of this tactic because it was, I think, fairly legit. It wasn't OP, you could defend it. But what you do is you send a ball either directly to just a player on the very corner of the box and then back to the corner taker. Ideally, that corner taker will have whipped cross, either plus or just normal. And then you just kind of wait. And then one of your defenders will tend to make a run at the back post. And if you time it right, you can kind of get a free header or a free volley at that back post. So that's what I've been doing from corner kicks at the moment.
Yeah, so for corners, like I said, I've been having a few issues. Excuse me, but my latest thing to do is, especially for in swingers, make sure you've got a finesse plus player taking the in swinger, play a wee short one, and then try and finesse it for the edge of the box, which I'm not sure is the most effective way of doing it, but it's working for me because you either get another corner out of it or you can get some lovely goals out of it too. So I've started to try and play a little bit shorter at corners. The meta, to be fair, hasn't changed an awful lot. Counter-attacking from set pieces seem to be rife. You are seeing players trying to keep the ball a little bit more. I don't know whether it's because I'm now like top-ended Div 2, so players maybe slightly changed, but definitely noticing people are kind of playing sort of tiki-taka passes more than they used to. But I don't know, Dan, have you experienced that, or is that just kind of my own experience?
It's been I always find these questions so difficult in terms of what has changed after the patch because, I play a couple of sessions. There's nothing, the corner thing is that's something that's very, very noticeable because it's easy to see that, I'm not conceding corners. You're not just getting people dunking on me with Van Dijk from set pieces and things like that. But also on the downside of that, I'm finding that opportunities to score from what I consider legitimate crosses and stuff have gone down as well. So I don't know. I'm a little bit worried that maybe the balance has gone too far the other way. And as Neuro, says, he's more likely to concede on a counter than to score a corner, which is the wrong balance. But I mean, our old corner tactic, Nath, play a pass out to the person on the edge of the box, then play it back to the corner taker, and they can deliver an in-swinging cross. that still does yield me a few goals. If you wait, someone will usually make a run at the back post. So that's how I've been kind of building my corners. But again, you do get counted on. But then again, some people will say, well, that is football. It happens. So it's a difficult one to balance that. I do think they were OP. So I'm glad they've been kind of nerfed a little bit, because it did feel, it felt cheesy, didn't it? If you were sat there and you played really well and then you just conceded a couple of corners.
Yeah, it did. But to be honest, I was one of those that took advantage of corners. I managed to be able to suss out exactly how to cross the ball and where to cross it to. So I am a little bit miffed that it's not quite as good, because it was a very, reliable source of goals for me. So if you had someone with power shot, you'd actually have a power shot at target. You'd either score or usually get a corner, and then you think it's almost as good as a goal because you've got a high percentage of chance of getting it. So I do quite like the fact it's mixed it up a little bit, though. I do enjoy sort of exploring new ways to create, and it keeps things a bit fresh. But it would be nice to have a slightly higher chance of getting it if you put it perfectly. Same with the open gameplay meta. I don't think that's changed awfully. I've seen a few things online about how R1 dribbling seems to be a lot easier now, a lot more sort of effective. And you do see that your players are kind of taking a few extra touches on the ball when you're trying to do close control dribbling. So it's quite nice that you get a little bit more sort of movement and control and build up that way.
Yeah. Look, it's one of those things where I also find it very hard to adapt myself when things change. I will just keep doing the same old things. So I'm probably one of the worst persons to call out. And that's why we have the brilliant Art of Foot show with John and Artyom, where they can break down things in much better details. I'm just your bang average FC player. But one of the things, moving away from the meta and things like that I did want to talk about, and I know you wanted to discuss as well, Nate, is I've loved the fact that this week has been Evo week. We were starved of Evos during the last promo, and now we're getting these daily evolutions, which are providing upgrades to a lot of my Reading players. It's given me those fun headaches of who do I put into what. But I think you've had a few little things that have been annoying you with it.
Yeah, like I've already quick sold Rashford and re-evoed him to try and get sort of better stats, because it wouldn't allow me just to upgrade the one I had. And I'm in the same position again. You can link these new evos, so they do give you really nice players. But the only ones that seem to fit either what the need for my squad or the players that I like, you can use Kobe Mino or I can use Rashford. Both of them have got sort of a version of evo on them. If I try and evo them as is, it just doesn't work. So I like the fact there's lots of evos, and to be fair, it probably should force me to use other players. But Rashford is so good normally. If you want to maximize that, like I don't understand why we have to find ways around it. Like my idea in my head is that these players, if you've got like an 86 rated one, and the Evo gives you stats up to a certain point, I just want to be able to chuck my Rashford in and get his shooting from 87 up to 90 like it would be, instead of having to quick sell and then go through all these different Evo links. And same with Kobe. I've missed out on a couple of them, but you can almost get him like Hullet Gang, and he's quite OP in the game actually. For those that have used him, he's actually really nice to use. But to try and get him up to that level, got to quick sell and then start all over again with a new Kobe Mino. And for me, that seems counterproductive. It limits the amount of Evos you can use, and maybe it's to try and get you to use other players. But when you've got players you've got attachment to through your club with just through liking, I think that it's a little bit disappointing that it's kind of like disregarding that. And I thought the whole idea was to have a bit more fluidity, so you could put these players in and it would just max out at X, Y, and Z stat rather than having to do it all again. So I'm a little bit lost in kind of the method to the madness here. You're still on mute, Dan.
We are having an absolute great time, technically. This is why the show's ending, by the way. It's not because I've got a new role. It's because
we've all been sacked.
We've all been sacked, just losing the plot. I was going to say, I completely agree with everything you just said. My only theory with this is that EA have seen that people are chaining too many Evos together and ending up with just two good players. And the barrier now they seem to be putting down is one, roll plus pluses, and two, that they keep giving people these overall boosts that are just so annoying. So, like, for example, I've got an 86 rated Sam Smith. One of the Evos that was released this week, this striker-based one, I think Attacking Apprentice it's called, I can put him into it, but he will only get like a couple of tiny boosts. Like I might do it just for the attacker, advanced attacker plus role. But I'm also sitting there thinking, well, he's getting so few stat boosts from this. But the problem is he'll be boosted to 88 rated overall. And at 88, the chance of EA releasing an Evo that fits an 88 rated player are slim because this is how they're gatekeeping it. So you're in that really tricky position where you're like, okay, do I do the Evo? Do I not do the Evo? Do I wait? And that's why I kind of tend to wait as long as humanly possible to put players into these evolutions. So they do seem to have gone against what they advertise. They are still restrictive. The stat limits aren't really working as intended. They're almost working in the opposite way because it's just capping loads of stats. And, as others have said, you're just ending up with similar players rather than having truly unique ones. But look, overall, Evos have been good for me this year. As I said, I'm rocking 4 players, I think, in my current starting lineup that are Reading players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 Reading players in my team that's getting 8 wins in Weekend League and is in Div 2 rivals. That's fantastic. And look, I'm no Harry Hesketh. I'm not one of those players that could use like a bronze team and get away with it. So that shows you that they're at least maybe not the top meta. And Sam Smith did cost me a few goals this weekend. I did have to have some words with him. But yeah, overall, I understand the annoyance. And I do think they need to come up with this. I don't understand why you can only have one Evo player. It must be something to do with it's probably something more to do with the coding, Nath, I think, than an actual strategic decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to be because there's no other reason not to be honest. It's got to be in the code, and it obviously doesn't like to have like an Evo version of the same player. Otherwise, it's just EA being ridiculously tight, I think, and ridiculously stingy. So we'll give them the dues and say, yeah, it must be in the code, and something that hopefully they can work out for the next year. Because if you've got Evo sitting there that's an 86 and you've got another one at 88, you can have a gold player and a promo card of the same one, or you can have 2 different promo cards of the same player. So don't understand quite how that's working. So hopefully it's just a blip and they're still trying to teething problems and such. But it's hard to say unless you speak to EA. But they obviously don't like to speak to folk all the time.
Yeah, although I did appreciate the fact that they went on. They didn't take up our invitation, but they went on the another Foot podcast, the Foot Weekly podcast. Not that other podcasts exist, everybody. You only have to listen to this one. But in a parallel dimension where another FC podcast exists, I liked that they had Tom Kalefi on there, and he actually he talked about the impacts of roles and what they do to players, and very much clarifying, for the first time, that roles are a lot more important than I think even we gave credit for. Talking about how it will effectively boost their stats if they have these role pluses. And again, watch another fascinating video where the Penthes did kind of deep dive in the interview that Tom Kalefi gave on that podcast and his own thoughts and stuff like that. It was interesting because he's now, and I'm kind of going to have a bit of a play around with it as well. He was saying the attacking positioning stat and defensive awareness stats he thinks are now more valuable than things like pace. So he's moved away from just going hunter shadow into things like sentinels, the stuff that boosts defensive awareness. So I've changed a couple of my defenders to it. And again, I've not had much time to play. But it'll be interesting to see how that impacts things. Because again, Tom Kalefi was saying that role pluses, they will affect the runs people make. So he says there might be 10 runs available. And the person with a role plus is far more likely, like he'll find the 9th or 10th best run, whereas someone with no role plus will be struggling for one of those sort of 5 inferior runs.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking in our own group chat with Shaq when he was talking about Vinny, and I'm saying I've got him in my team because when I play with the 3 up top, Vinny is a left winger on plus is ridiculously good, like unreal. But when I'm playing the 4-2-3-1 wide and he's just basic, he's not got any pluses or plus, he's pretty much unusable. Like he has his, you can speed boost merchant him, but apart from that, like you don't really notice him in the game. But as soon as you got a player with a plus, like he's almost like a completely new player. So that totally adds up, and I can see that. And I am trying to find ways, and we'll talk about my player in review. Somebody I never thought I would have in the squad, let alone in the team. But I threw him in there because he's got a power shot plus and he's got a roll plus or a roll plus. And actually, what a difference it makes. And it makes these players that you would totally not even look twice at go, oh, actually, that's quite a good option to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of players and roles and things like that, it is time, Nathan, for our favourite thing to do in a show. Player in review. I almost got double player in review there because it came out of my PC speakers rather than my headphones. Who you picked for player in review this week? Everything's going wrong, folks. Everything is just going wrong.
It's typical Tuesday Club. My player in review, surprisingly, is Georgie Hadji. So I was playing around with some of the objectives and I had to do a few rival games. I've got my wins comfortably sort of top end of Div 2, so I thought I'm going to go to 4-5-1. Georgie Hadji as a attacking centre mid playmaker, so he's got a role plus on that one, but he's also got the power shot trait. Put a hunter on him. He's actually really quite tasty. He's got 4-star, 4-star, power shot, left footed. You put a hunter on him, and he does end up with 90 pace, 92 shooting. His passing's still very, very good. His dribbling's decent, not amazing. Defending lets him down, but when he's an attacking CM, you just need another body rather than relying on him to tackle, because I've got the Player of the Month Patry and Casemiro next to him to do it all. So really nice. He's 100k, which is kind of low end, obviously, for the icons, but really nice player that surprised me. Just, don't know if he's going to be there forever and a day, but he's definitely going to be, in my squad for a rotation option.
Like it. I used my player review for today is the I can't remember what the promo is called. What was the last promo called?
Is that the Succession, Ultimate Succession, is it?
Yes, Ultimate Succession. Alessandro Del Piero was the player I used. Good, great cam. Play him as a shadow striker. He's got that plus role. Scored some fantastic goals. Loved the left stick dribble. Really good wriggle on it. The only problem, two problems. Number one, he's 1 million coins. And I'm not sure he's quite worth that. But the other thing was as well, it's just the strength. And it's the problem that Del P cards have always had. He does have that, especially if you're playing against a defence with the likes of Van Dijk in it and the new red Canate card that people seem to have rapidly got. I don't know how. I'm still stuck in the mid-20s, yet alone 35, but that's a side issue. But when he comes up against those kind of players, again, he's just getting bullied a bit off the ball. So, and I am a bit of a bumper cars physical player. I do like to try and wriggle through gaps and things like that. Well, not wriggle through gaps, bulldoze through gaps. So didn't quite work for me. Sold him for a small tax loss. But I think if you are someone with the multi-million budget and you do, if you want to try that kind of player for a weekend, he certainly won't let you down, Nathan. I know you've got him. I think he's on your bench, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's my cam when I'm playing my 4-2-3-1. Again, he's shadow striker on that as well. I think I like him because he gets into nice pockets. He's not your out and out striker. I think you're completely right. He's not got the physicality to be a sole striker, but as a shadow striker, even as a playmaker, he pops up in really good areas. And the 5-star weak foot with the finesse shot plus, I think is ridiculously good at times. He sort of gets you out of messes just by getting a little bit of space and being able to finesse it. So really nice card. Again, he's not worth the coins. But how many players really are worth the coins? If you've got a game-changing player, you're talking 1 million upwards. And at this stage of the game, with only one play style and what's around the corner, I think that that amount of coins is. I struggle to spend it, as you guys all know, because I'm a dragon, and you guys have got a new nickname for me. So I do.
Yeah, one I can't say on a family-friendly show. That was well coined by Shaq. Again, join the Discord, and we will tell you the nickname that we gave Nath. And there's another one to encourage you to join the Discord. Look, I would kind of argue the opposite, though, in that I just think if you find a good player that you really get on with, like I, for example, was really getting on with Cole Palmer's Trailblazers card, and I kept rebuying that card and taking losses on it just because it was so good. He's one of the few players that had Shadow Striker plus at that period in the game. So I didn't mind taking the hit on them because I was as we've talked about before, it's, I saw it as your loan fee or your contract fee, whatever you want to call it. So my advice is if you do find a player that really fits the way you play, don't be too cheap on it. And, look, if you think a new version, for example, like when I sold the base Ashley Cole because I knew a new Ashley Cole was coming out, that is more sensible stuff. But if it's just I'm worried because they're an expensive player, my advice is always, the likelihood of them jumping off a cliff price wise is slim. And even if they do drop 100, 200k, whatever, that 200k isn't going to get you your next amazing player. So why worry too much about it?
Yeah, I know. I'll be returning to my Wayne Rooney, I think, in time for the next Rivals run. One of the few players that you just instantly click, and he's got a bit of everything. So you are right, but it's also very hard when you've got so many coins invested in a single card.
Yeah, I absolutely understand, and that I think that just about wraps up the Tuesday Club. I feel a bit bad, Nate, because I think, and I apologise if it's come off too much in this show that's been littered with technical errors, both my own and not yours. But I'm just kind of in a bit of a weird place with this game where I'm at that point where I'm just turning up. I'm just turning up and playing. I'm just turning up and playing games. I'm not thinking too much at the moment about the market, about tactics. I'm just kind of like, I'm enjoying playing with my Reading team. I'm trying to just chill out. I'll play my weekend league games. I'm playing usually to 5 Rivals wins and then going on. So I almost feel like a bit of a fraud sitting in the host chair because I'm not experimenting. I'm not diving in and really sort of getting to grips with all the different facets of the game right now.
Yeah, I don't think you can be a fraud with a silky smooth voice like that, Dan. So you're totally fine. But no, I've on the whole enjoyed this game so far. There's been bits that's bugged us, and I do like the objectives and I do like the wee grind. So I have to say I'm still in a fairly good place with it. But I totally see why people get frustrated. I keep up with a lot of different views in the Discord and on socials. The game's not as gripping, I don't feel, as it has been. I think the golfing, taking your team to the next level is as big as it's probably ever been right now. I think that some of the Rivals, I think, has been quite good that you can get relegated, but at the same time, it's a bit of a stress that you can get relegated at the same time. Hopefully, they'll open weekend league up to a longer run, so I can finally play weekend league. So, as with everything, we're not going. EA aren't going to suit everybody, and to be fair, we won't in how we sort of discuss it, especially on the Tuesday Club. I know we've had some sort of feedback in the past that we've been negative, or we're not as hyped with the game, so we can't suit everybody. But I think one thing that we do is we stay true to our own opinions. Sometimes we get in ruts and we want to vent about it. Sometimes we try and stay positive, but I think that's something that is important, that we all have different opinions. And I'm going to miss the Tuesday Club. We'll try and keep a form of it going. I don't know how it's going to run. I'm sure Shaq and myself will probably have a few Tuesdays in your absence. Obviously when my wee one comes along, that I'll probably be out until after Christmas next year, sort of come March, April time. So lots of things happening. But it's so nice. We go on about our Discord a lot, but it's been so nice being able to share things in the Discord, and good things and bad things. We get so many good comments back and chats back and stuff. So I think it's a good way to plug the Discord as well, that it's a lovely place to be. It does keep people motivated in the game when it's in a bad state, and obviously share the highs as well when you're enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's been this isn't goodbye. Look, as Nate said, you will still hear all of our 3 voices on Foot in Review, which is, going through changes all the time. And I think John spoke about it on the show the other week. It's a case of learning what's working, what's not working. And look, thank you for all your feedback as well. That's really appreciated. And, we're very lucky that John just lets us basically go out on a Tuesday and talk about a load of random stuff, and then he'll edit it together. But he's kept us on air this long. So hopefully, we've not upset too many people and listeners out there. But if you like what we're doing, please give that feedback into our Foot in Review and Foot Coaching socials, footinreview@gmail.com as well. Let John know, especially John, because he's the overall overseer of things, what you're liking. Do you like shows that are a bit more relaxed and informal, like we've been doing here on the Tuesday Club? Or do you like the more structured, updatey based ones with the shorts, or the kind of way they go through content on Friday nights? We're here to try and make the best possible shows for our listeners. We will happily talk off air about things in our own way. So look, we need to be, in tune with what all of you folks out there want. So please let us know. As I said, we're not going anywhere. Things will just change a little bit. I'm sure John will kind of get to it more, but we're going through a bit of a Christmas break anyway. So, I hope everybody has a lovely Christmas. It's Winter Wildcards, Nate. It's one of my favorite promos of the year. So, hopefully they continue that as well over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. If they do it justice, like I say, last year I think it was a really good promo. I think it was quite underrated last year because the amount of content we had was crazy. So hopefully they can keep that up, set us up on a good pedestal going into the new year. And then it'll be all action for Team of the Year. It'll be Operation Save after Winter Wildcards for me for sure.
Yeah, that Team of the Year train is rapidly pulling into the station. I think it'll probably be about around a month today. We'll probably see it. It's what, the 17th of December as we record this. So loads to look forward to. Please just play the game when you enjoy playing it. Don't sit there and worry that you haven't reached a certain level in the season ladder, or that you haven't completed an objective, or you haven't got a token, or things like that. Life is too short. Please enjoy it. I stick around on the play on this game because I enjoy chatting with everybody about it. I love doing foot in review. I love our Discord. And that brings me much more joy than the actual playing of the game. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just how it is. And yeah, look, thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. Again, join that Discord. It's absolutely free. If you want to go the extra mile as well, patreon.com/foot interview. You get the aforementioned Art of Foot show. Apologies to John for all the effort you're going to have to go through editing this show together. But look, hopefully it is worth a grind. Nath, for the final time on our regular Tuesday Club show, what have we got to do?
We've got to drop it.
We are going to drop it. Take care, everyone.
Drop it.
F-U.
T.
F-U.
T.
F-F-F-U.
T.